Aloha again. I'm trying to plant a few seeds for our Unit 2 magic, which has to do with romantic poetry and poets, musicians, and artists who left the world a little bit too soon. So there we were in Bratislava, and I said to Jay, I was like, where did that movie Hostel take place again? As we're walking down the street, down the alley, as night was falling. Yeah, she said, Bratislava. Okay, let's put a pin in that. Before we can get to other matters, I don't know if you can see this, but this is a sprig of a plant called the crepe myrtle. And I don't know if you knew this, but when you pick before the flowers and it's still the buds, if you pick it off the tree, or you can even do it on the tree, take one bud. It used to be a hand model. I hope y'all can appreciate that. You take one bud and you squeeze it. Can you see that? And then the flower comes out. Like you can make the flower, force flower, like popcorn. And then here's the thing I really need from you guys. If you take the flower out, at the bottom of this, which you can't quite see, there's these little yellow, like, I don't know what the plant part is, but they look like little coins. So kids used to have like a little nursery rhyme that was all about the lady had a purse, took out a tissue, found some coins, bought herself another purse, and then you get to like take another one and pop it all over again. Okay, where am I going with this? Nursery rhymes, some of which are mentioned in your first How a Poem Means, or really Mother Goose songs. We're talking about the intersection of poetry and music, right? And the Bratislava thing, I think I was going with that was, I'm not sure exactly. Well, let me tell you about a different trip then. It'll come back to me. This is what would happen if you were in a normal class with me. I'm just trying to give you the feel. So in another trip, there's an island called Ireland, which is a country, and there's islands off of that island called the Aran Islands. And I once had a couple of summers ago when people were still, back in the ancient days, when people were still allowed to travel. I found myself in the Aran Islands of Ireland. And I was outside at a cafe with my wife. There's not many cafes on the island because it's a small island off of Ireland. For some reason, there was this guy at this other table, and I was like, that looks like the cool guy. We have to talk to that guy. And we didn't. Because, just going up to a stranger, even in Ireland, where they like to talk. Next night, we go back to the same place. That same guy is there. I'm like, we got to talk to him. So we end up sit down, talk to him for a while over some classic Irish beer for a long time, really. It turns out he is the son of Phil Lynott, who is featured in our unit as one of our tour guides, spirit guides. The beautiful thing about that was the trip to Ireland had already been super amazing. And it's one of the most beautiful places, just in terms of natural beauty. And people there truly do love to talk in a way that's not small talk, even if you are strangers. So it's wonderful for a poet on many levels. But then, meeting the son of Phil Lynott was just totally crazy miracle on top of everything else. But that sort of thing, that's definitely one of the joys of travel, because it can make you feel that wonder that you had as a child, like almost nothing can. And that's what poetry sets out to do a lot of times, is to, make it new, as a famous poet once said. Now, just as our beginning of this, there'll be more, but we're just trying to find the intersections between the poetry featured, not so much what it means, but how it means, and then some of the music that I've got listed because of going with the moment we're in historically. But you know a lot of music that I completely don't know, of course. So a lot of that can be brought to bear as well. Some of the first poetry things I ever read was the poetry of John Keats. And then when I jumped into more times closer to our own, there was a book called A Coney Island of the Mind by Lawrence Ferlinghetti. And then there was the songbook of Bob Dylan, which was a big book that listed all the lyric sheets to Bob Dylan songs. So that was kind of like my pathway in to poetry. And people have different ways. But usually people don't start by reading poetry from 1,000 years ago. Usually people don't start by reading Chaucer and then working their way to the present. Usually there's something that you love now in your life or a few years ago. And then you kind of work your way backwards to the greats, or where did these people come from, what were their influences. So that's kind of where we're beginning for now. I'm going to cut it off because the video only allows me to go so long, which is good for you. Happy 7 minutes. Aloha.